Okay, welcome back to part two on Martin Heidegger. Last time we covered some basic concepts on Martin Heidegger, and I don't really want to go too much back into those. That was really just an introduction to some of his basic concepts like ready to hand, present at hand, enframing, ontology, and most of the time I think you can associate those concepts with tools and technologies and so forth. However, I want to clarify what I kind of my stance on those things and get into how we can cultivate virtue in being in this overwhelming epoch of world dissolving technology in the form of AI, and then, well, who knows what else. It seems like we're being introduced to new discoveries and technologies almost every day at this point. So, to clarify what I meant in the first video, which I'll link below so you can go to it if you need to. When I'm talking about how we control, or we're in control in relation to enframing, what I mean is we're in control of our agency and how we want to be in this world of AI where it feels like everything's out of control. Maybe our lives are being upturned, or new jobs, new technologies, new purpose, or we have to figure out how to find new purpose. So let's reframe those core Heidegger concepts into techno-human science, which is, let's repurpose them under that concept where ready to hand would be someone who is intuitively and instinctively, using their will, they're kind of pursuing their projects and their purpose, and there's not a ton of thought going into it. And someone present at hand would be, you're kind of realizing nothing's working in your life, or maybe society as a whole. The collective society is like, well, things are broken, like as we can see in government regulations, religions, financial system, various inequalities, the media, especially journalism, where it kind of seems like the system that cultivates our journalists and supposed truthsayers it just doesn't work. So the various things in those systems we could categorize under present at hand, and then we can kind of see how people in general, maybe in a present hand, some people, not everyone, would be in a present at hand state because they're unclear on the direction they'd like to go with their life due to AI, or maybe they're starting out in a financial situation, like, do I go to school? Well, is school going to exist? What what about education? What about, what do I do here? How do I buy a car? How do I buy a house? And you could see all of these things kind of fall under present at hand. So how would a human being, like an individual, in this scenario, in this epoch of AI, how would we bring ourselves from a present at hand state to a ready at hand state? And I think this is one of the most critical questions of our time. I think everyone's talking about this every day, especially if you're on X. So I think in terms of enframing, I think it's really important. It's not about controlling the AI. It's not about mandating new regulations that will kind of occult away parts of this technology so that only certain individuals, deemed allowed to use this technology via government regulation or religious intervention. I think instead what we want is we want to really reframe this whole thing, okay? Where we're not trying to control it with religious intervention or government intervention or intervention from just a small group of people. What we want is to really focus on how we take control of ourselves and our agency in relation to AI and all the new technologies that are dropping. So my question to you would be like, how would you prepare and react to that? Will you bow to fear-mongering in the media from the government or from our religious institutions? Or will you rise to the occasion and start to use these technologies in a way that benefit you so that you can build the life that you want? I think ultimately it's really critical that AI stays free from state and religious control. So it's kind of allowed to develop and manifest itself in a way that benefits society through cosmic and positive political philosophies that inform societal structure, individual agency, sovereignty, creativity, education, and the cultivation of human virtue, really beyond anything we can comprehend right now, because we have this sense of what human virtue is and how to cultivate it and how to acquire knowledge, and clearly it doesn't work because large parts of society, large parts of humanity, individuals are finding themselves in a present at hand state. And now normally if you're working with a hammer or tools, you can figure that out from using first principles and working backwards, and how do we get back to a ready at hand state. I think it's more complicated when you use these concepts to look at how humanity is going to bifurcate and then move beyond our current state of being. So it's extremely complicated. And so which individuals will rise to the occasion here and move beyond this paradigm and then drag the rest of humanity with them, or what is that going to look like? Anyways, I'm going to provide a bunch of different sources in the description that you can look at. The main ones are going to be from Jason Jorjani and his Prometheus and Atlas, Fundamental Thinkers, and then 2 of his Substacks that I'm going to link, where I want to say I'm kind of pulling a little bit or reappropriating some of what he's saying, and then also from Martin Heidegger's being in time and on the questions concerning technology. But yeah, so I think, so let's move on. So how do we even begin to think about getting back to a ready at hand state, an instinctive, intuitive, action-oriented state as a human? Well, Martin Heidegger proposes this idea of Gelassenheit, or the letting be, so to speak. So, like, what is that? Like, what is the art of letting be? I think you could think about it in a few different ways. I think about it in terms of like maybe like a meditative state, or maybe you could think about Buddhism in terms of how Buddhists are kind of, I wouldn't take it as far as Buddhism where they're going, where it's like they're looking for self-annihilation. I'm not taking it that far. Maybe it's on a micro level, like self-annihilation in terms of like learning. So you're annihilating your current understanding of yourself to transcend to a higher state, not trying to totally obliterate the self. That's where I don't really understand Buddhism in that way. It sounds really stupid, but there's parts of it I like, but I think it's more useful on a macro level. So Gelassenheit, the letting be, I think this is something you could use every morning, or it could be whenever you want to do it. But what I mean is this: where I think it's good to be in oriented mode where you're just constantly taking action and getting things done, but there needs to be some level of your day where you don't, where you're not just taking action, you're kind of being, you're just in a state of being in the world and not using your computer, not using technology, not using your phone or X.com, the everything app that is so addicting and has so much information, and you learn all sorts of things from all these amazing people. I think that state needs to happen in the morning. For me, I find it to be super useful. I wake up, I do my best not to check my phone, and then I read and I work out for 1 to 2 hours. So reading, working out, walking, not ingesting any form of technology for the first 1 to 2 hours. And you're like, oh man, now, you know, we're not using our will to power. We're not, you know, we're not getting things done. But when you think about it, it's really important not to constantly be consuming technology, because it really affects the algorithm, the technology itself, its impacts on your brain. It really changes how you think about the world. And so if you can sit with yourself prior to consuming technology at your job or whatever it is you're doing for a living, or whatever creativity, whatever sort of project you're working on, I think you'll start to notice you're going to really be able to discern what types of action, where, when, you know, what should you really be doing and working on. And it's gonna, when you allow yourself to have this letting be in the morning for 1 to 2 hours, this Gelassenheit, so to speak, I think you're going to become more in tune with yourself, and you'll start to regain some energy. You may even start to feel like you're just generally healing, like your body, your brain. And then once you finish your morning ritual or routine of reading and exercising and walking, and sitting in the sun, more importantly, I'm going to link another source to Dr. Huberman's protocol for, or his morning sun protocol, which I pretty much use myself, where I'll wake up, but a lot of times I'll read in the sun for 15 or 30 minutes and just soak up that sunshine and that vitamin D. And that's how you can really boost your energy levels, but also just increase your overall health by not even by really taking any medication or doing anything. And this is just proven to work. So I'll link that video to Dr. Huberman's Sun Protocol as well as an additional source. But anyways, I think you'll start to notice that when you forego all technology in the morning, 1 to 2 hours is only 4 to 8% of your day. So if you are introspecting and being in the world for 4 to 8% of your day, I think that's fine. The rest, 92 to 96% of your day, if you're actively creating and building and working and just getting after it, I think that's a fairly good ratio. I think one could argue that maybe you want even more time to yourself, but let's stick with that for now. Anyways, really what I'd like you to think about is how you can structure your day so that your entire being is not totally annihilated by the use of AI and social media and these new technologies. And when you're taking this 1 to 2 hours in the morning to sit with yourself, to annihilate your comprehension of yourself on a micro level, not full Buddhism, where you're thinking in your head, what was in a present at hand state for me yesterday or this morning? What 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 do I need to do to, what actions do I need to take to get myself back in a ready to hand state? Or what do I need to work on to get my projects back into a ready at hand state, or my relationships, or how else could I start to build things in the physical world that take me away from social media and AI? And I think if you get into this routine, I've found over the last year, this is what I've been doing, your energy levels are going to increase drastically. You're going to start reconnecting with like your inner self. And I think we'll talk about that in a different video. I have a lot to say on that topic as well, which people will probably find extremely out there. But anyways, I'm not going to go on a rant on that. Think about how you can create space for yourself in the morning for 1 to 2 hours using Martin Heidegger's Gelassenheit, so that you're taking control of yourself in your agency and using active introspection, an active present at hand state where you're actively sitting with yourself, reading, walking, exercising, whatever it is you like to do that gets you in a really good state of mind. Start to really explore that structure in the morning, and then you can kind of shoot off into your day. Because a lot of times what I'll feel like while I'm doing this morning routine, like I'm like ready to go and work on my projects now, like, and by actively like stopping myself from working on these projects and not getting so ingrained into social media and posting my stream of consciousness right away, I find that I'm more clear-headed and I'm able to just kind of go through whether it's my checklist or work through my projects or read or write in a way that is much more conducive to my life. And I don't feel like I have this sense that like my life is being obliterated by technology. So my hope is you could repurpose what I'm saying in this video for yourself and start to cultivate a morning structure using Dr. Huberman's Sun Protocol and Heidegger's key concepts and using Gelassenheit, the letting be, to start to put yourself back together in terms of your purpose in life, your direction, your projects. And this will kind of start to give you almost like you're building your own individual ontology. And you'll start to overcome this like crazy enframing that is starting to dissolve the boundaries of our world through screens and technology. And maybe you'll start to find and form better relationships, and this fear mongering we're seeing in the media from the government and religious institutions and media institutions, it just won't matter to you because you're really starting to use these technologies to benefit yourself instead of them just overwhelming you. Okay. I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but I'm going to post it and we can, if we need to, come back and redo this video. Hope you're having a good day, and I'll be posting some more content soon.